a substring. And what this include return is actually a true or a false. If it contains a particular thing, it will return true. If it does not, it will return false. So like here, we can decide to say dot contain, let's say j, right? Okay, I don't know how this part contain. Okay, is it contain? Yeah, singular. Yeah.
So is it not include?
Oh, yeah, include. Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, so thank you for that. I don't know. It's as if the contain is Python code. The whole thing is just played in my head. All right. So this one now, like we have J here now. This is JavaScript, and of course this is J. And here we are now looking for J, but it's telling us that it's false. That's J is not included in this string. So why is he giving us false? Why is it returning false first?
It's case sensitive.
Yes?
It's case sensitive.
Okay, good. So that's just the answer to it. It's case sensitive. So for it to work, we have to convert the J to the way it is here, which is capital letter J. And then you see it's now returning true. And you mustn't check, you can check for, like now, if I want to check for JA together as they are, you can check for JA. So does it contain true? You understand? So that's how this particular includes works. So, and if you put something that is not there, let's say Z, of course it will return false. So we also have index of. Now in programming, there's what they call indexing in programming. So indexing is just that there's no way to print the memory address in JavaScript. Even I would have shown you guys something, or better still, right? Can I do that with Python? Okay, let's see. Probably in our next class, I'll do that with either C or Python so that you understand what is going on with all these things we are doing here in the memory of your computer, right? And when I say memory, there's difference between memory and storage. Memory is the RAM of your computer. Storage is the hard drive. Gong, 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 gong. You understand? And I know we use it interchangeably. Say, it's your memory. My phone now 64 gig or 128 gig. That's not your memory. That's your phone storage. Your phone memory is your RAM. So take note of it. So now, index. Once you are dealing with an array, which we call that, or a string, there's always what they call indexing in JavaScript. Even other programming languages, not just JavaScript. Indexing is that the first character of your string, the very first character or element of your string, will always carry the index of 0 or is at an index of 0. The next one is at an index of 1. Like that. That's how it keeps going. So let's say now I want to check the position of this J here. What I just need to do from this method we have here is just use index of. So if I come back to my code, I just need to put index of, and then I'll fill it with J. Now, what are you seeing? Index of J is what? Is 0. Remember what I was telling you? I said that the first element, all right, will always start like your string or array. The first element, very first element or character will always start at index 0. So it means if we are to look for index P, what are we going to have? So this one will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So P is supposed to be at index 8. So if we come here to find that of P, what do you see here? You see 8. Why? Because it always starts from index 0. So if we check that of T should give us 9. And if we check that of V here, it should give us what? 2. Now what if we now check for A? Now who can tell us why is it giving us just index 1? Because we have 2 A's now. This one is index 0. It means this A is at index 1, V is at index 2, and then this A is also at index 3. So why is it that we are passing in A but just returning the index of this one? Who can tell us?
Is actually reading the first occurrence, the letter.
Beautiful. So that's just what is going on. It will always read the first occurrence of whichever letter you are passing into this. So please put that at the back of your mind. Then we have slice. Now what slice does is to extract a section of a string and return it as a new string, right? So, and this slice, unlike the others that takes one parameter or some that don't even take parameter at all, this slice takes in two parameters, which is what the start and the end. So if you come here, let's say this JavaScript, but what I want to pull out from this JavaScript is actually Java. So what should I do? Of course, that's where slice comes in. Now this slice, they say it takes in two parameters. If you remember what I said every string starts from index 0. So if I want to extract Java, it means I must start from the first one, which will be 1, index 0, this index 1, this index 2, this index 3. So now I'm going to have 0, comma 3. Now what do I have? Java. But what was my target? My target is Java, not Java. All right. So what do I need to do? I need to make here to be index 4. Now, why is this like this? Because ordinarily, this A is at index 3. When you start counting 0, 1, 2, 3. But this slice method, how it works is that it stops at exactly before the index you put here. So if you are putting 3 here, it will not get to 3. It will stop exactly at 2. So that's why you see you are having your jump from 0 down to 2. But if you are including this A, because this A is at index 3, it means here you have to put 4 and not 3. Now, if we are extracting, okay, what we want to extract this, we don't want to just have script. So what are we going to do? Which number are we going to use here and which are we going to use here? So somebody should help us. If we're extracting just what we have here, script.
I think minus 4 or something like that.
Okay. Now, yes, it also accepts minus. If you are making use of minus, it means you are coming from the back. And coming from the back, this one will always represent -1. All right. So you can use different ways. Now, if like I want to get from here down to the because script is the one represented from this point down to this point. I need to first get the index of this S. What will now be the index? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here I'll just give it index of 4. And then because the slice, right, it can accept 2, start and stop. It can also accept 1. Now, if you are giving it 1, what it's going to do is that it's going to cut starting from that index to the very last one. So since our script is from 4 index 4 to the very last one, so that's why I will just pass in 4. I don't need to even go and look for maybe I'll say okay 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then come and say comma, maybe 10. I don't even need to do this. Yes, I don't need to do this. So I'll just pass in 4. And then if you are doing it from the back, remember what I told you. You can also start counting from the back. Now from the back now, remember I said the last element is always at index -1. So if we are doing from here to here, of course, this one will be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. So we are going to have -1, comma, -6. So what do we have? Does this work with minus? Okay, okay. Now, but it was supposed to be able to specify now. So let's see, -5, right? Comma, -1. Let me just try something and see. Okay, okay, okay. So look at it. This -1, this -2, this -3, -4, -5, and -6. All right. So I can say -6, and then it will pick from this -1 down to this point. All right. So let's say I just want to pick SCR, right? So it means -1, -2, -3. minus 4, minus 5, minus 6. So it's going to be between this place, which is minus 6, and this place here, which is going to be minus 2, right? Because we have minus 1, minus 3. So we have comma minus 3. So you can see we now have our SRC. Remember, this I is the minus 3, not this R. I remember what I told you when we were doing the whole thing. I say this one at the end, you always give it an allowance of 1. So if I'm picking from here to here, this one is supposed to be at index 3, all right? But I'll not put in 3 here. I'll put in 4. So that by the time it counts, by the time it's getting to the fourth one, it's going to stop. It will not include the fourth one. So that's why here too, by the time we count, this index 1, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, right? The next one is minus 4. But if we put minus 4, it's going to stop here without including the particular character index, the character on that index. So that's why we have to give it an allowance of 1. And an allowance of 1 here in this case will now be minus 3 instead of minus 4. All right, because if you do minus 4 plus 1, you have minus 3. And look at it. We try to calculator minus 4. Okay, that's, let's say 1, that's plus 1 minus 4. You get minus 3. So always put that into consideration. But in case working with negative value is confusing you, you don't always have to work with negative value. You can also work with positive values. All right. But just put it at the back of your mind, because there are instances where you might need this. Most especially in an instance where you want to get the last this thing of any string, right? You can just simply pass in minus 1 here. So irrespective of how long this one is, it always return the last. You can see the last here is D. If I add other things here, G. So instances like that, the negative is very useful. All right. So any questions so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go on.
Sorry, go back to that code. You mentioned minus 1 and
Yes.
it's brought out this thing T, but can't you just press this thing 10
Okay, press
as in 10?
10. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. We can. All right. Or 9.
Okay,
I said always
yeah,
give
9.
an allowance of 1.
Yes.
Okay, what if I now added something? And we are expecting to get the last element.
Okay.
You understand? So that is where
Yes.
this negative 1 will become
One.
very important. Because this negative 1 will always give you the last element.
Last. Okay, sir.
You understand, right?
Yes.
So any other question?
Sir, I don't, maybe mine is like a group method. Like from that JavaScript,
Yes.
if you want to take Java now, you
Yes.
say 0 and
Yes.
then 4. And
Yes.
then because, yes, it will give
Yes.
us Java. Now, from the way I do it, I will just count the length 4
Okay.
times. 1, 2, 3, 4 from Java, from the beginning of Java. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the length,
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. So you can see this method is even quite easy because you don't have to think of so many things, right? So of course you can see what he's saying. Him, instead of just looking at it from the point of index, he will actually look at it from the point of length. Because from the point of length, counting starts, the first counting is 1. It's just from the point of index that it starts from 0. So he will just count 1, J1, A2, V3, and then A4. So he will come here, put 4. But always know that what this one makes use of is index. All right. But he will always look at the length because here there are 4 letters. All right. And that's why here is giving it 4. And of course, it's returning exactly what we want here. All right. So you can also do this here. This 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This script is at index 4. Right. Now, if we now count, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. So here we now put our 10. So you can always use his strategy. All right. That one too can help. So I love that. So just make sure you understand how it works. And then if you have a strategy of understanding it much better, it's very, very welcome. There's no one way of doing something when it comes to programming. All right. So it's a good one. So any other question? Aha. So I think this was the method I was confusing myself with regards to this string. So remember, string is strictly for space, and that space, they call it white space. That space at the beginning and also at the end. Those are the spaces that are known as white space. Any space in between, the programming JavaScript will take it as just a normal thing, because of course it's normal for you to always have space in between as you write to give meaning to words and the rest, right? So I was confusing it with this split. So look at split a string into an array of substrings based on a specified separator. All right. So now for this split, by default, what it does is that it splits. You see that we just call it split, and what it does is that it takes this whole string and converts it into an array. We still look at an array, so I will not go deep into it. Now, let's say we want to split this text based on space. We want to use space to split it. That is, anywhere it is space, it should just split it up for us. So it means when it gets here, it's going to split JavaScript and is. And when it gets here too, there's a space between this is and great. It's going to also split the great. So now, if we pass in that space, you can see what is happening here. You can see that it has successfully split them into JavaScript, is, and also great. Everything inside an array. So let's say I want to split it based on maybe full stop, right? I will say, okay, JavaScript is great. Or not, okay, full stop. The JS is the king of web, right? And I decide to split it based on not space, but full stop. Now, splitting it based on full stop, it means it will take this one, on getting to this full stop, is going to break it into this place and also this one here. So we are going to have JavaScript is great, and we're also going to have JS is the king. Sorry, I'm better to say king, not kind. King of the web. So you can see what we have here. JavaScript is great, yes. Then you see it even took note of the space between this place and this place. Look at it here. This is the space here. You can see it even took note of it. Do you know JS is the king of the web? So, and you can also split along comma. Let's say I say maybe JavaScript, comma is great, right? Comma, do you know JS, comma, is king of the web? Then king, comma. So if I split it based on comma now, you can see JavaScript, comma, it will split JavaScript. The next one is what? Is great. You can see the space between even the comma and is, you can see it takes cognizance of it. Is great. Another comma, so it breaks it. Space here, do you know JavaScript? Another comma, so it will break that one too. Then is the king, another comma, it will break that one too. Is the king. Then finally of the web, so you can see it of web. So any question on this? All right. So let's fire down.
So this particular method now split.
Yes.
So it can separate arrays. Although we are not gotten to arrays, but in an instance, maybe we want to separate maybe only JavaScript without all the write-ups, and we want each letter to be separated by maybe a comma. How do we do it?
Okay. So you say we just want JavaScript to be separated?
Yes.
Okay, then every other one to be what?
Then no, without, like, you just clean everything, then JavaScript. How can we separate everything maybe with
like
a comma?
This?
Yes.
Now, as it stands like this, right? You can't separate it by anything here. If you want to separate it, just call the method as it is, split, and then just give it this. You understand? So by just passing, no, don't put space, so because if you put space, you are telling it split using space. You understand? Which of course here there's no space between the JavaScript. So, but I want to split all the letters. I want each of them to stand on their own. So it's just for me to pass in an empty string. Once I do that, everything it needs as a string, it will split them character by character. That's why you can see here JAVASCRIPT. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But is this not what you're actually asking?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So put it at the back of my, if you want to split everything word, not word per se, sorry, letter by letter, right? What you need to do is just to call the split and then pass in your quotation, either double quote or single quote, it will work. All right. So now the next one we have is the replace. All right. So what does replace does? Replaces some or all matches of a pattern in a string with a replacement. So look at how the replacement works. Replace pattern and then replacement. So now let's look at this JavaScript. We can decide to make this Java a pattern. You understand? And then we now put it down, okay, what we want you to do, replace at every occurrence of Java, right? Replace it with type. So this replace will go into your string. It will look for this exact occurrence. If you don't have this exact occurrence, it will not work. Because we are passing in Java here, whereas there's nothing like Java here. What we have is Java. So it won't work. So it has to be exactly the occurrence. So of course, we have JavaScript, we have TypeScript. So I actually want to change my JavaScript to TypeScript. So what will I do? Now I'll take in this string, right? And then I'll now go ahead and now replace it with the one I want. This is the one I want to remove. I want to replace. But this is what I want to replace it with. So that's why I see here we are now having TypeScript. So very important question that I've been longing to ask. Now we are having const here. You know that constant simply means you cannot change the value of the variable. But why is it that here we are able to change this one from JavaScript to TypeScript? Why? Who can answer? Who can help us? Why? And JavaScript don't come us.
Okay, let me try. I don't know whether I will be correct,
Okay,
but
please
let
go
me
on.
try. Yes. Now, constant lang equals to JavaScript. It means like we are just declaring a variable. But if maybe we don't want to change it, we'll just use is it 3 equal signs?
Okay. Well done. You try. So any other person? I always like my class to be interactive, all right? Just like I said, there's no wrong answer. So there's always an answer. Okay, read them, please go on.
But sir, please, but can we use number instead of letters? I mean, what in this type?
Yes, for this one, right? Okay, like to replace it with a number instead of type.
Yeah.
Yes, so far is a string. Look at it. So far is a string. Because you know what you are doing with is that's why they call them string methods, all right? They only work with string. So far the number is in quotation. Even once you put a number inside a quotation, it becomes a string. So far the number is a string. It's going to work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So good. Now to answer this question I just asked, all right? Sometimes these questions are tricky questions. Now, anything that has to do with string method, what it does is that it always returns a new string. So if we come back to this our code and we console log lang, right? Let's say we come in console dot log lang. Now what do you see here? Do you see JavaScript or TypeScript? Class, hello.
JavaScript.
JavaScript. What does that tell you? It tells you that all these methods we have been calling, lang dot this, lang dot that, they don't change your original variable. That's why I see it's not throwing an error. What they do is that they pick your original variable and they create a new variable. So what this one is returning is a new variable. How do we know that is a new variable? Now let me remove this console.log and then let me store it inside a variable. So const new lang. All right. Now you see we are console logging lang and then it's giving us the original this. Now, of course, I said that all the string methods they create a new string entirely from this your original string. So now let's console log new lang and see. So what do we have here?
It's script. Okay.
So do you get why? So do you get why it's not throwing us an error? Okay, imagine now we are now attempting to change this lang as it is directly. Let's say we change it, we say Rust. You can see it always throw error. But all this method, because this method understand that there's every possibility that in your code you will likely make use of const. So what they do is that they create a new string out of your original string. They don't tamper with your original string. So any question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please go on.
Yes, sir. Sorry, please. Can you go through it again, please? I quickly went to pray, so I left. Please.
Okay, no problem. Where did you stop?
After the explanation of index of.
Okay, yeah. You know you do.
Okay. No, you can just
Go far,
explain this
don't go
one.
far.
No,
you know
just
you do.
explain this. No.
Okay,
sorry,
this
sir.
one. Okay, let me explain
Yes.
The other one, you can follow the recording. All right. So what I was asking them, let me even ask you before I proceed. I said we are having. Let me do away with this one, right? Let me take it back to how it was. So we are having this. This is console. Sorry, console.log. Hope this thing is okay. So now I asked them. I say we are declaring a constant variable lang. And here we are replacing part of the variable. That's the JavaScript part of the variable. Because that's what replace does. You search for what you put here, which of course here we have it here as Java, and then replace it with whatever is here. So that's why here you see it replaced Java with 8. So we're having 8 script. Right? Now I'm not asking, but here we are declaring the variable as a constant. Why is it that we are still able to change our variable from JavaScript to 8 script? Whereas we know changing variable declared with const will always throw an error, but this is not throwing an error. So what is actually happening?
It's JavaScript to ask like that too.
So I was even saying, why did that JavaScript scam us? That we did not know. So
or maybe that's the work of replace that.
Okay, so I was not explaining to them. I say all these methods we treated, right? All of them, as you see them like this, they don't change your original variable. What they do is that they create a new. What they return to you is a new string that is separate from your original string. And that's why if you come here, normally, this is where we run our code. So if it's actually changing this, it means if we come down here and console.log our lang, right? What we should have should be 8 script. But you can see we are still having JavaScript. So that's telling you this one has not been tampered with. So and I went ahead to show that actually, let's create a new variable for this one. Let's name it new lang. All right. And then, of course, to show that truly this one is giving us an entirely new string, we can now call it. You can now console log it. So console.log new_lang. So what do you see here?
Scripts.
It's script.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So any question, because that is just like I said, there are more string methods in JavaScript, but these are the most basic ones. All right. So any other question on string method before we move on? Okay. So now we'll be looking at arrays. Now, why arrays? Now imagine what I have is a collection. You know what I have here is just a single variable, JavaScript. Imagine what I have is a collection. Let's say I have 3 different languages. Now, instead of me coming to here, I'll say const lang. I'll now say const lang 1. I'll say okay, Rust. I'll now say const lang 2. Okay, I'll say Cairo. I'll now say const lang 3. And I say okay, what are they calling it again? Sir? I say okay, TypeScript. And I say okay, const lang 4. And I say this one, let us give it snake, Python. Now, instead of doing all these ones, look at what I did here. I have declared how many variables? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, when I want to work with something that is closely related, and that's why it's known as collection. Collection is actually something, although you can define collection differently. You can say, okay, names of males. Names of male is a collection. So it means the entirety of those names are male. You can say name of mathematics students in SS1 is a collection. It means all the names there should be names of those that are offering mathematics in SS1. You understand? You can say name of fruits. So instead of me coming to load it one after the other here, that is where array comes in, right? So arrays are ordered collections of values that can be of any data type, including strings, numbers, boolean, objects, and even other arrays. Arrays are used to store and manipulate multiple values in a single variable. So what array helps you to do is actually take everything, all the collection, instead of you looking, okay, imagine you have 30 names to store. Then you now put name 1, name 2, name 3, name 4, up to name 30. It doesn't make sense. Because you even start writing code, your 30 lines, you have already given it to variables. You understand? So that is where array comes in now. So instead of doing all these lang 1, lang 2, lang 3, lang 4, you can just create an array. I can just say, come here and say const langs. I put S to show that it's more than 1. Equal to, how do I create an array? You leave a square bracket. Although it depends on the programming language. Some programming language makes use of this bracket, curly bracket. But in JavaScript, they make use of this bracket. Now, what are these languages? First one is JavaScript. Permit me to use the short form. Second one is Rust. Third one is Cairo. Right? Fourth one is what? Is TypeScript. Fifth one is what? Is Python. Let me just put them full. You know, some people does to have like half. So good. So now you can see what I've done here is to save myself from all these headaches. So I don't need all these things here. So this is what an array is in JavaScript. Now, there are different ways of creating an array. This is one of the ways and the most common way of creating array. The second way is the array construction. The first way, they call it array literal syntax. That's using the array syntax, the open and close square brackets. Using array constructor, that's when you make use of the word new and array. So I can come here and then say new array and then put all of them inside a bracket. All right. So please give me like a minute. All right. So I'm back. All right. So sorry for the broken transmission. Right. So either you go by this method, the array literal syntax, or the array constructor. All right. So for me, I find it easy to just use my normal array this thing, syntax. Yeah, this one is much better for me. Because I can't forget this one. All right. So this is how you create an array. And you can also create array of numbers, not only strings. So that's what you see. That's what they are trying to tell you here. That it can contain different data types. But you cannot have a single array having different data. For instance, I can have something like this. Const even number. And then I now have like name, then number, then true, boolean. Like, let me remove this code. So I can have, are you serious? Don't tell me JavaScript have changed. Hey, let me confirm something. Let me confirm something. It's possible that JavaScript have changed. 0. So that's it. So from what you see here, it means an array can take in different data types at the same time, right? So you can see here, we are putting in a string. Here we are putting in a number, and here we are putting in a boolean, right? And then you can see it's not giving us an error. So it means it supports any data type at the same time. For other programming language, it doesn't. If you are using a string, all of them have to be strictly a string. If you are using a number, all of them have to be strictly a number. If you are using a boolean, all of them will have to be strictly a boolean. All right. So take note of that. All right. So let's say 2, 8, 10 is also an even number. So this one we can say this is a collection of even numbers. This one we can say this is a collection of languages, right? Programming languages. So that is how you declare an array. So now, so you can, it's always advisable, right, to make use of const when declaring an array. It's not as if let will not work. Yes, you can use let, but it's always advisable to make use of const. So here is it. So this that. Then the next one is accessing array element. All right. So yes, we know we have created an array. Now we did not just create an array to go and keep it in our room like a gold medal. We created it to make use of it. All right. And one of the ways you can make use of array is to even start getting elements that is inside of the array. Now, how do we get elements inside of the array? Remember, I talked about index when we are talking about string, when we are dealing with strings. I talked about index. All right. So now, also here, looking at what we have here, is the same way array 2 works. Now, as this array is now, how many elements does it have? It has JavaScript, which is 1, Rust, which is 2, Cairo, which is 3, TypeScript, which is 4, and Python, which is 5. So now, this element inside of this array, to access them, the first element will always start with index 0. The next one, index 1, the next one, index 2, like that. But it always starts from index 0. So if we want to get just JavaScript, what we just need to do is the console.log length. Now, this is the name of the array. To access it, we need to pass in the index inside the square bracket. Now, this was an index 0. So once we pass in index 0, what we are going to have is our first element of the array here, which is what? JavaScript. This one is at index 0, these are index 2, these are index 3. So to get 10, let's say we want to just pick just this third element, which is 10. It means that we have to use we have to console.log, of course, to show what we are doing. Then even number, that's the name of our array. And then we'll pass in an index of this number. Now this is having index of 0, index of 1, and index of 2. So we'll pass in index 2. So what do you see? You can see it has given us 10. If you want to access this Rust or this TypeScript, this one is at index 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? So now we're now passing index of 3. So you can see what we have, TypeScript. So any question on accessing elements of an array? All right, beautiful. So common JavaScript array methods. So just like how we had string methods, we also have array methods. And the reason why we have array methods is that so that we'll be able to manipulate an array. Now, before we even talk about array method, there's something I was supposed to include, but I just remembered now. I forgot. So I don't know. You forgive me for that. If there's any way I can include it, I will include it and then we send the material. All right. So remember iteration, control statements, loops. Who still remember? For loop, while loop. Who still remember? Hmm? Okay, beautiful. Now, the way we loop, right, is the same way you can loop through an array. Now, you can use a while loop if you want by passing in the index. You can use a for loop if you want by passing the index. But the most used, there's one they call for off, and there's another one they call for in. For off and for in. So that's the easiest two ways of actually what are they calling it? Looking through an array. So two of them, let's look at the differences, right? Now, let's say I want to look through all this array, and as I'm looking through them, what am I doing? I'm actually like printing them out, console logging them. So I can say for right for lang in langs console.log lang. Now, what did you see? You see, we are using the for in. What does this tells you? Now, like, what is this for in actually doing? Look at what we have here and look at what is happening. So, what is the for in actually doing? Can anybody help us?
What is the question, please? Sorry.
Okay, now I was talking about how to look through, we talked about for loop, while loop, all right? Now, you can use a normal ordinary for loop and you can use an ordinary while loop to look through your, an array, but it's not really that efficient. So there are two most popular looping methods for arrays. There's the for off loop and there's the for in loop. So now, what we now use first is the for in loop. And in this for in loop, what we are doing is that we are saying for lang in langs. This one, you can name this one anything. This is the most important thing here. This one is one that you are creating a variable for each of the individual elements as you look through it. But this one now is the main array itself. That's why you can see langs. Lang. If I like, I can change this one to L. Right? If I like, I can change this one to L, to U, to W. But this one cannot be changed. This one must be your array. So I'm not saying for any element, if I like, say, I can give it a symbol instead of element. Right? I can just pass in a symbol like this. So I'm just saying for variable that will be holding each individual element of my array, console log the variable for each of the elements. So it will come, it will check for lang, the first element is JavaScript. It will pick JavaScript and then give JavaScript this variable. So what I'm doing here now, by printing this variable, the first thing I will have is JavaScript. The next, it will come Rust. The next, Cairo, until it gets to the last one. So I'm now asking, look at what we are having. For using in, look at what we have, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Why? For using off, let's try off and see. Look at what we have. So what do you think is the relationship between using this for off and for in? Look at for off here. It prints the main elements themselves, JavaScript, Rust, Cairo, TypeScript, Python. But look at for off, for in. It's printing a number. So what is the relationship between this for off and this for in?
I think for off and for in is telling us the index of those variables, like the JavaScript, that's 0, for us is 1, Cairo 2, then TypeScript 2, Python. And why for off is just returning back the elements inside.
Beautiful. So that's just the difference. So for off returns the main element for you, whereas for in returns the index. So why both of them are used or introduced in JavaScript? Because it depends on your use case. You understand? There are instances where there's a high probability that what you'll be needing is a for in, and there are instances where what you'll be needing is a for off. You understand? So you can actually use this for in too to get your element. How? Now remember what we say: to access an element, to make use of what? The name of the element and the index. So since this for in is returning the index, what we just need to do is to call the name of our array and then pass in the index, and then it automatically will return the main element for us. You can see. But if this is what you are looking for, of course, you don't even need to stress yourself. Just make use of your direct for off, and then my brother, you are good to go. So any question on this? Just like I said, I'm sorry I forgot. I don't know how many it escaped my mind. It was both a part of the material, but I'll go back, re-edit it, include it, and then send it over. All right. So any question? Okay. So let's go on. Where are we? Okay. So there are majorly 3 different kinds of methods. Although you don't need to differentiate them. Yes, it's just a way of organization. That's why I differentiated them. Mutating method, of course, you all know what mutating means. When they say something mutates, it means it changed from the original state. Non-mutating method, you know what it means by non-mutating. There's no change. Then when you say iteration method, of course, that's what we just did right now, using our for off and for in. All right, but I don't know if there are other iteration method, right? We'll find out. So for the mutating method, so you see, they say this method can change the original array. So if you remember, for string, if you remember what I told you, you know, string don't change. The string method don't change the string. What they do is to return a new string. Now, those mutating methods under your array, they change the state of your array. The array itself, they change it. Now, how do they change it? Now, we have various types. We have push, pop, shift, unshift. I know some people used to say they steal your thing, say they don't shift them. And you see, now programming language, they don't copy that slang from say shift. Say then shift my handkerchief, then shift my money. So now when you say push is just to add one or more element to the end of your array. All right. So now if you come here, of course, looking at what we have here, looking at what we have here, certainly there's no how you are going to tell me that. Let's say, for instance, we are building a product, and for now the product supports all these programming languages. But what if we are now coming, we want to now add a new language? Let's say we want to add C++ and C#. Now, How are we going to do that? Of course, just like I say, we will not always come to our code and open our code and just come here and be changing things anyhow. So that is where this push comes in. So what does push does? Push adds elements to the array, new elements to the array. Now, how can we add new element to this lang? It's just for us to come and say lang dot push. And then what are we bringing in? Remember, I said we are bringing in two different programming languages. So we have C++, and we're also bringing in what? C#. So this push can take in any number of variables. You understand? It can take in one. It can take in one. It can take in more than even 10, more than 20, 30, depending on what you want. So by bringing in these two variables, what this push is going to do is that it's going to now add it to this original variable. Now, how do we know that it has added it to the original variable? Now, let's console log our variable. So console.log length. Now, what do you see here? JavaScript, Rust, Cairo, TypeScript, Python, C++, and C#. And how did we add them? We added them at the end of the array. So C++ comes first. Then next, we are adding C#. So that is the work of our push. Now, pop, what does pop does? It removes the last element from the array and returns that element. So push, what push does, it returns the new length. Now, how do we know? If we console log, let's console log this. Console.log, the push method itself. Let's console log it. Now, what do you see? It's giving us 7. How many were here before? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5. But since it's adding 2 now, upon adding 2 to 5, how many elements are we expected to have? 7. That's why you see it's returning 7. That's why here they say it returns the length, the new length of the array. Pop returns the last element. It removes the last element of the array and still returns that element. So here now, let's say we want to remove C#, right? Because the last element it will always remove. We can just say lang.pop. We call our pop method, right? Now, if we come back here and we say console.log langs, let's check. What do we have? You can see we no longer have C#. It has removed C#. Why? C# is the last element. Now, by the time we still call this function again, pop, we are expecting it next to remove the next last element, which is C++. So let's confirm. Now let's print our array and see. So you can see we no longer have C++. It has removed it. If we call in pop again, right? Of course, we're expecting it to remove the last language, right? Which in this case is Python. Now, if we go back and then we console log our langs, you can see Python is no longer there. It has removed it. So that's the work of your pop. And remember, they say it returns the element it removes. So this first one was removing C++. So if you console log the method, what we are going to have is we are expecting to have the element is going to remove, which in this case, okay, we have Python here. Which one is line 13, right? So let's check line 13. Okay, so these people, man, wow. Oh, okay, really. So we're supposed to return the element which it's actually removing, which in this case is supposed to be C++, because that's the first pop. But then, sorry, I say C++ C#. So I think this is it here. Okay, let me off this. Use this one. Oh, you just showing on the time, Okay, so that's the pop for you. Push at element to the back. Pop removes element from the back. It removes the last element actually, because unlike push that you feed in the element you want it to put inside the array, which could be more than one. Pop does not accept any element. Once you call it, it just removes the last one for you. Then shift. Now shift is the opposite, not really opposite of pop, but it's doing what pop is doing the other way around. Now what shift does is to remove the first element from the array. Pop removes the last element. Shift removes the first element. So if you come here now, right? So what we have here is from JavaScript to C++. If you want to remove the first element, which is JavaScript, it's for us to just come and call lang.shift, right? And then, of course, they say to return the element it's removing. So what is removing here, which is the first element, is JavaScript. So that's why you see here we're having JavaScript. So now let's console.log our langs and see. So you can see we no longer have JavaScript in our array, only Rust, Cairo, TypeScript. Now by then we call the shift again, right? By then we console.log langs. You find out that it has also removed Rust. That after removing JavaScript, Rust becomes the first. Calling shift again, it will now remove the first one, which in this case is Rust. And then here you can see we no longer have Rust here. So that is the work of shift. So on shift, adds one or more element to the beginning. So on shift is doing what push is doing, but the other way around. So what push is adding at the back, shift is actually adding, on shift actually is adding at the beginning. All right. So if we come now, we say lands dot on shift, and then want to add C++ and then Fortran to the front. All right, him did return the length. So you can see formally we have just 1, 2, 3, 4. Now upon adding 2, we will have total of 6 elements. So let's console.log our array. So you can see it went and add C++ and Fortran, but it added it at the beginning of the array and not just the end of the array. So any question? Okay, let's look at the final one. Final one under mutating though, not final one under all of them. Yeah. So splice. Now splice adds or removes element from an array at a specific index. So that's the work of splice. So always learn to differentiate splice from slice. Slice is for string. You can see it here, slice. But splice, because at some point in time I was misinterpreting, but splice is for array. And you can see it's taking in 3 elements. Now, if you look at what they say adds or removes element. So in a situation where you want it to remove, I'm coming. Let me clear all this and just leave this. Okay, let's work with this number. Let's work with numbers now, so that it will not be as though array is just for languages. Yeah, it's just for string. So let's work with numbers now. So now let's say I want to use splice to add, because based on what they say here, they say add or remove. You understand? So by default, what splice does is to remove by default. You understand? But now we can also use it to add. Okay, let's see how to use both. Now let's say we have 2, 4. Let me just add the numbers 6, right? 8 and 10. Yeah. So now let's say I want to remove. I can say, okay, I want to remove both 2 and 4. What am I going to do? I'll say none.splice. And then the first one is your start number. The second one is your delete count. That's how many you are deleting from that start number. Now, my start number here is what? Who can help us? What will be my start number? From this example, you are seeing fruit. We have list of fruit, and then we are having 1,1. So remember, I said the first one is our start number. The second one is the number of elements we should remove from that start number. So if we are targeting this, remember, this one we can say 0, and then it should remove maybe 2. Remember, I told you that the index of an array is what? 0. Just like how the index of a string is 0. So here, what we are saying is that starting from the first index, and the element in the first index is 2, remove 2 elements from that index. So it means that I'm removing 2 and 4. Because from the first index here, 2 elements is this one. If I want to remove from 2 to 6, of course, I'll put 3 here. So it will remove 2, 4, and 6 for me. With my target, it will remove just this 6 and this 8. This one is at index 0, at index 1, at index 2. So I'm going to give it index of 2, and I want you to remove 2. That's both the 6 and the 8. So here I'll give it 2. So it will, now let's check what will now be our this thing. What are they calling it? Console.log norm. All right. And then you can see what is left of my array. What is left of my array? 3, 4, and 10. Why? Because I've removed 6 and 8. So that's why you see all these ones, they are under mutating because they change your original array. You get it? Now, this is in a situation where you are using splice to remove elements. There's another situation where you can use slice to add elements, right? So I can come here and say, okay, I want to this 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? Now I will not say, okay, I want to add after 10, I want to add more elements, or after 4, I want to add more elements. So in this case, I'll not say, okay, splice, oh, after 4, I want to add element. So I will count. This is index 0, this is index 1. So here now, I will have index 1. Here, do I want to remove anything? No, I'll put 0. I don't want to remove anything. I just want to add without removing anything. So that means then the third parameter or anything outside of this first 2. This one is starting. This one is how many you have to delete. If you don't have to delete anything, you use 0. Then anything that follows next, this splice you interpret it as what you want to add to. Want to add, let's say 12, 14, 16, and 18. All right. So now, if I console log, of course, yeah, I'm console logging on my array. So what is happening here? Splice starting from index 1, index 0, index 1, this is index 1. Don't remove anything. The leaf count is 0. Don't remove anything. Instead, every other thing you see here, add it for me. So after 4, it will now add 12, 14, 16, and 18. That's why we see here we have 2. Okay. Oh, it actually added it before 4. I was thinking to add it after 4. Sorry, it's added it before 4. So this, if I want to add it after 4, here I have to be at index 2 and not 1. All right. Sorry. So now you can see 2, 4. Now the next thing that follows is at 12, 14, 16, 18 before it now continues. Now, if I want, I can say, okay, add this one, so, but also remove some. So let's say I want it to remove from this index 0, 1, 2. I want it to remove like 2 more elements before adding these ones. I can just give it a delete count of 2. So what does that mean? It means this is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2. So starting from index 2 to remove 2 elements. And then upon removing that 2 elements, it will now bring in all these other elements. So that's why here you're seeing after 2, 4, we don't have 6. It continues from 12, 14, 16, 18. After that, we don't have 8. Why? Because we are deleting 2 elements, which is the 6 and the 8. So the final one you will see is actually your 10. So that is how your splice is used to either delete or replace. If I need to replace, if I want to replace just 2 with the 2 I've deleted, I'll just give it 2 elements. So instead of 6, 8, I'll be having 12 and 14. Look at it here. Instead of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, I'm having 2, 4, 12, 14. So either you use it to delete, either you use it to replace, or you use it to add. So that is the use of your splice. So any question? Oh my, okay, my internet is still. So is there any question? Okay. This one that somebody is sending like your emoji. These are strong. Okay. So now, okay, that's for mutating method. So remember, push, add new element to the end, pop, remove the last element, shift, remove the first element, on shift, add new element at the beginning. Splice is either easy to add either use it to remove or either use it to replace. So, um, so the next one, non-mutating method. Okay, so you see, we even have slice under array. So I was even thinking I was the one confusing myself, but it turns out that no, I was actually right. So we also have slice under array, just like how we have slice under string, right? So you see, it says returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array. So it works the same way with the slice, you know, in your string, right? So for instance, now let's say, okay, let's console.log it so that we'll see what we are doing. So you can say num.slice. Of course, let's say we want to remove, want to just get just these two elements. Of course, remember the first element is what at index 0, right? Then the last one. Now, this one is at index 1, but remember what I told you. By putting just 1, it's not going to pick the element at index 1. Because if you say 1, it will come and stop just before the element 1. So for you to get including the element in the first index, you have to stop just after the index 1, but before index 2. So here we're passing 2. And then you can see we have 2 and 4. The same thing, if you want to get the last element, remember we said minus 1. So you can see we are having the last element. If you want to get, let's say you want to get from 6 here to 10, these are index 0, these are index 1, these are index 2. We just give it 2. So it will fetch from that index down to the last. So if you just want 6 and 8, then this is index 2, this is index 3. We are not going to stop at index 3. Instead, we'll move it to give it an allowance of 1. So we are taking it to index 4. Then we'll have this 6 and 8. So any question before we proceed? So that's your slice. So we now have concat. Now, this concat method, all right, it also works for string. I don't know why it's supposed to be here, all right, string method, but I'm surprised though I did not include it. So it also works for string. Now let's do that of string before we now come back to that of array. All right. So now let's say we have const first name. All right, f name. So f name, let's say Java, and then const l name, that's last name. Last name, let's say script. All right. Now we can now come and join these two strings together using the concat method. How? We now say f name, the one you want to call, the string you want to call first will always be the first. Before calling your concat method, dot concat. Concat. Then what's the second one? L name. And then what do you see here? You can see what we did here successfully is to combine the first string and the second string, which here everything I gives us JavaScript. So always take note, the one you want to come first will always be this one. Then the one you want to come last, that's the one you now feed into this concat. I know that somebody will now say, what if we now have more than 2? So let's try it and see. Const f name, l name, and then let's say m name, middle name. So let's say a space and then burst, right? So let's try something. Let's add more than 1 here and see if it will work. So you can see. So in case you are having more than 2 strings you want to join, you can see inside of your concat, you can list the rest. But just know that this one will be your first one. The one you want it to be the first one will always be this. Then dot concat, every other one you add, depending on how you want them to appear. Of course, L name comes before M name. That's why we are having script before Rust. And this space, it was actually inside of the variable itself. That's why you see this one was having space. Yeah, it was because I added space here. So that's why you see we're having space in between these two. I know you might start asking, why is it that this one there's no space between them, but this one there's space between them? Because of I actually added the space in the variable. All right. So this works for string. So let's go back to our array method. All right. So for array now, what concat does is to combine two different arrays together. So I can have const num. Let's say I can now have const num1, all right? And then this const num1, maybe I'll say 1, 5, 7, 9, all right? And let's say I want to join these two arrays together, but I want to join them starting from my const, my num1 array. What will I do? Remember, this one will be the first one I'm going to call. So I'm going to have num1 dot concat, and then the second one, num. So you can see what it's going to do is that it will take this num1 and then take this one num here and combine it with num1. So that's why you are saying 1, 5, 7, 9. That's num1. Then it now takes this num and combine the two. So for this num, we're adding 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So do you guys get it? All right. So that's concat. So take note of that. All right. Then the next one we have is join. So you see, they say join all elements of an array into a string separated by a specific delimiter. Now, delimiter in programming language is just a name for a separator. You understand? If you hear delimiter, just know that it's simply a separator. What they use in separating the symbol, it could be a character, it could be a symbol, it could be anything. All right. So what we are using as a separator in this case is a comma and space. So let's look at this one quickly. Join. So let's say we have, let me go back to that our initial array, that one for programming languages. All right. Just this one I've only passes through. So let's say const langs, right? So we have quickly JavaScript, Python, TypeScript. Okay, sorry, TypeScript, and then Rust, right? So now let's say we don't want, because as they are now, if we console.log, right? This is actually an array. What we have here is an array. So what if we want to bring all the elements together as a string? We don't want them as an array. We want to get all of them as a string. How do we go about it? That's where join comes in now. So from the word join, of course, we are joining all the elements together. So you just have to come and say langs dot join. Now in our join, right, you can see by just calling join without specifying any delimiter, look at what we did. We actually combine all of them, separating each of them with a comma. Are you seeing it? So now we can decide to specify that, okay, separate them. You see here, I do not give space. I just put this. So that's why I say it's joining all of them together. If I want them to separate by space, I'll give space. I'll put space here. So you can see it separated all of them by space. If I want all of them to be separated by full stop and a space, I'll put full stop and then a space there. You see, to separate all of them by full stop and a space. If I want them to be separated by full stop and a comma, probably the full stop to show that each of them is not the full, it's the short form, right? You can see I can put full stop and then comma, so you can see. Now, if you check, it's just this RS that does not have this full stop. So depending on how you want to separate them, if I want to separate them by using this, I'll just bring in this. Then here, what I did was leave space between here and here, so that each of them will have space between themselves. So you can see. So you can specify any separator. Just like I said, the separator is the one they call delimiter. So take note that, so you can see. So anything could be at, could be and, it could be at, it could be this, it could be dollar too. So anyone. So any question on any of these non-mutating methods? Any question? Oh, my network is still on. Okay. So the next one, we have iteration methods. So now, They say this method allow you to iterate over the element of an array. All right. Now you see this one, what we have here for each is doing the where do we okay. So this for each is doing the work of both either for in or for of. It's doing similar to what for of is doing. You know, we talked about the two, right? We talked about for in and also for of method, right? So for something like this, let's say we want to iterate this. Of course, we can use for of, right? We say for L in, I say you can use anything here. Remember, this one will just be a variable that will help you be picking each of them one after the other as the function iterates over them. In length, of course, this is the name of our array, right? What should you do? Simply console dot log L, right? That's for in. In is the index, of course. Why for the main element you use of? So you can see JS, PY, TS, IS. So the same thing this for of is doing is the same thing for each thing is doing. So how do we use for each? It's easy. So you can say from what we have here, right? You call it on the element. So we have, yes, my code editor here. So we have length, that's our array itself. Dot for each, now each word, any you can use anything here apart from the name of your array. So I can decide to say each underscore, right? What should you do? Now, what this for each is doing is that it's actually going through each, it will go through from the first element of this array to the last element of the array. And then this one that's put here will be what will represent each of the arrays individually, as this for each is moving from the first to the last. So in a situation where it gets to the first one, this element that we put here, just like I said, could be anything. I can even decide to put G. This element here, all right, or I can even decide to put E to show that element. This element here will take JS. By the time it moves to PY, this element becomes PY. By the time it moves to the next one, which is TS, this element becomes TS, like that. So if we console.log, where are we having error? I'm seeing error. Missing semicolon. Really? This semicolon. Is surprising me. Okay, okay. Okay. I get. Boy, it's supposed to work, right? Supposed to work. This is semicolon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. Let's look at what they did here. Okay.
So
Yes.
is it because you didn't put this thing the arrow function or what?
Yes. I think the for each works with function and not just ordinary code. From what I'm seeing, from what we said here, because what they used here was they used an arrow function. Of course, we have not covered arrow function yet, so that's why I've, I'm not even saying anything concerning it. But we still look at that. So I think that's why it's not actually working. All right.
Okay. So we
But
just
arrow function, and then when we look at arrow function, we'll come back to each of these things, right? So, but I think we should be able to pass in a function. We should be able to pass in a function. I don't know. Let's look at. Okay, let me see. Let's see if we can create a function. Function print, all right, and then let's say to take in element, and then console dot log the element, right? So let's pass in that function here. Now we have here. Okay, for each. So here we have print. Yeah, I'm not sure it will even work. So let's try it anyways. Uh, okay. Okay. You know what we are going to do? Hmm? Let's leave this one now, and then let's go and do arrow functions. And once we are done with arrow functions, then we'll now come back because each of them, the iteration method, each of them makes use of arrow function. All right. So let's go and do arrow function first. Then we'll now come back to them. So is that okay by you guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, introduction to arrow functions. Now, if you look at it, you remember the last two classes. Is it last two classes? I can't remember. We talked about function, right? And typically, you say you first use the word function and the name of the function, let's say land, and then the function, although it's not compulsory, it's optional. It could have a parameter and then what the function should do. So this time I want it to just print out whatever is passed into it. So and in calling the function, we say it's going to be the name of the function, and then inside the function we are going to be passing. If the function has a parameter here, it means we have to pass in an argument here. So here, let's say we pass in the language as JavaScript. All right. So now this is function declaration. This is function call. We declare a function using the function keyword, the name of our function, the parameter if there are any, and then the body of the function. That's what the function should be doing. So obviously, this function is printing out whatsoever is passed into this place as argument. So in calling the function, and since the function has a parameter, we are now passing in an argument, right, called JavaScript. So by calling it here, this console log now will now pick whatsoever is here, which in this case is JavaScript, and they're going to print it out. So that's why we are having JavaScript here. Now, there's another kind of function in JavaScript. They call it arrow functions. Now, these arrow functions, this is the syntax of an arrow function. This is the syntax of an arrow function. So if we go back here, say arrow functions allow you to write shorter function syntax. They are especially useful for writing anonymous functions. Beautiful. Now, these arrow functions are known as anonymous function. Why are they known as anonymous function? Can somebody help us? If they say somebody is anonymous, what does that mean?
They don't want to know who is doing that thing, maybe who is making the action.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Right? So that's exactly what it is. So anonymous simply means we don't know how. You understand? So that is what anonymous in its entirety is. So now I can bring in the same function that does exactly what this one is doing, but without a name. How is that? This is where this one comes in. This is my parameter, and it's also optional. This arrow is actually serving as a return arrow. And then here will be anything I want my code to do. Now, it depends on the situation, right? Now, let's look at each situations. Now, syntax of arrow function, we have function parameter, of course, what we have here. The arrow function arrow, which is what we have here, and then the function body, which is what we have here. So let's further look. Now, there are instances in a situation where you can have an anonymous function or an arrow function that does not have any parameter. Just like how your ordinary function too is not compulsory to always have your parameter. You understand? So if there are no parameters, you cannot omit this particular you are seeing, it cannot be omitted. You understand? But you can omit with your brackets. So for instance, this function, if you look at this function, is just printing out a name. If I like, if I'm using an anonymous function, I can say const, let's say land. What I'm doing here is actually to store the anonymous function inside of a variable, right? And then what is this one taking? You say it's taking in a name, right? And then you say you have your arrow, and then what is the function doing? You say to go inside the function body, which would be what? Console.log name. Now remember, we stored this function inside of this one. Why did we do that? We store it inside of this so that we'll be able to call it. So to call this function now, from what we have here, we need to call the variable which we store the function, and then pass in a name for the function, which here I'm going to pass in a name. And then you can see what we are having here is Rust. But I know somebody will be like, no, what will not be the use? Like, what's not the use of this function? We have to still store it inside a variable before calling it. No, we don't need to store it inside a variable before calling it. If we want to call this function as it is, like this, what we just need to do is to add our brackets here. Then pass in the parameter or the argument. Hey, you know what? It's supposed to. I think I saw something like that. I saw something like that. Where did I see this thing? Okay, no problem. I will still get to that. So now we have this. Now, what they are trying to say here is that if your function is just one line of code, you can actually omit these parentheses. So since I'm just having just this single line, I can remove these two brackets and have just this. Where's this thing? And this is supposed to work. Okay, line. Hey, what is wrong with this thing? Okay, let's go back. Is if there are no parentheses, you can omit the parentheses. If there are no parameters, okay, sorry. So we missed it. That's if there's nothing here. That's what they are trying to say. So yeah, let's say console log. Let me just console log name itself. So if we don't have anything here, you can omit that bracket. You see these two brackets are here. You can remove it. You don't need it. In a situation where there's no parameter here. But so far there's a parameter, we have to add those two brackets. And that's why when we now add name, of course, we want it to console.log name. Here now you can see, okay, it still work though. It still work. Good. I knew. So I was just busy looking at what we have here. Look at it. It actually worked. Sorry, I was just busy looking at what we have here. So now, once it's just one line of code, you don't need to put that parenthesis. Whether this one has a parameter or it doesn't have a parameter. So far it's just one code, you can just do it this way without using your parenthesis. So then single parameter, of course, the same thing, just like what we have here. Whether no parameter or single parameter, the same thing. All right. So multiple parameters is also the same thing. If you have multiple parameters, the whole game, right? For it to have a block body or for block body to be important, that's our block body now is this one. For this one to be important, the function has to be more than one line of code. So far, it's not up to one line of code. Even if it's carrying no parameter, one parameter, or more than one parameter. So far, just one line of code your function is, you can just present your arrow function in this form. So even if I come and add age here, I can come here and print, let's say, age, right? So I'm console logging both name and age, right? I can come here and then add the age. So you can see here, I'm having both my name and also the age, which is what, Rust and 27. So take note of that. You see, all still one line of code. Why? Because the only thing, even if you bring in this parenthesis, the only thing we have inside is just this single line. So there's no point of bringing it. But by then, what we are doing, like we need more than one line of code. And in that case now, we can now bring in this parenthesis in. So any question? Okay. All right. So that is arrow function. All right. So now let's write a function that with arrow functions now before we come back to this our iteration method. So let's just write an anonymous function that checks if x is greater than y. And okay, checks if x is greater than y. What should we do? Add 2. If x is less than y, remove 2. All right. So now what we are saying here is that we want to write a function, but we are using an arrow function that checks if our parameter x, that means this one will definitely have 2 parameters, the x and the y, right? And then the code, what we want the code to be to check if x is greater than y. And once x is greater than y, it should add 2 to count. So it means we are going to have a count variable. And if x is less than y, it will remove 2 from count. All right. So now we can say const check. Let's save the anonymous function inside check. Of course, our function expects 2 parameters, x and y, right? And then, of course, looking at the code here, we will need more than 1 line of code. So we have to introduce this our curly brackets, right? Of course, we have to check if x is greater than y, right? What should we do? Now, we can create a variable here called count and give it the value of 0. All right. So we can say if x is greater than y, then what should we do? Count plus equal to 2. Of course, I believe you understand this. We have done this several times. So this one is more like the same way by saying count is equal to count plus 2, right? So we are taking the original value of count, we are adding 2 to it, and then we are now storing the new value of count back inside of count. So that's what we are doing here, right? So they say if it's greater than if x is greater than y, add 2. Of course, if x is not greater than y, it means our else can undo that part. Else, what should we do? Count is equal to count minus 2. All right. So now, of course, what do we need to do? Yes. So now let's look at this. Now, why are we having this error? This code editor don't do expo. This code editor, we don't do expo. So now, why is he complaining that cannot assign count because it is a constant? Can somebody help us? Why? Somebody should help us. So why? In this place, why is it that it's not allowing us to use count? Why you?
Yeah, actually, I think it's because of the const we use. As you said, this thing already gave us a expo. If it was let we used, it would have changed.
Good. So what we are doing here is that we're actually changing the value of count. By using const, it means that we are trying to tell you that no, you cannot change the value of count. But in our code, what we are doing is that we're actually changing the value of count. So what we need to do is to do this left. So here now we can now call our function checks, and then we are giving 10 and 4. Right? Now you can see we are not having anything. Why are we not having anything here? It's because literally if you look inside our function, there's nowhere where we're actually printing the value of count. So in this case, what I'm going to do is to return count. So you can see what is happening here. This is what is happening. I'm passing in 10 and 4 as arguments. Now, once I call this function with 10 and 4, it will come here, give x 10, give y 4. Here, it will not check. Is 10 greater than y? Yes, 10 is greater than y. Then what will it now do? It will take the value of count. What's the value of count here? 0. It will not say 0 plus 2 is 2. It will not store it back inside value of count. So count now will no longer be 0, but 2. Then here, it will now come here because here is 2. So it will definitely execute this part of the if statement. So it will not come to else because this one is already done. Then it will not come down. It will not say that we should return count. So it's not returning the value of count, which in this case is going to be 2. So that's why we're adding 2 here. And in a situation where maybe this one is 1 and this one is 4, of course, if you look at it, is x greater than y? No, because x is 1, y is 4. In this case, x is not greater than y. So what will not be executed is this else statement. So on this else statement, it will take the initial value of count, which here we say is 0. It will now subtract 2 from it. So 0 minus 2, of course, then in small distance, you say it cannot, 0 minus 2. So you see minus 2, right? So it now count now is now minus 2. So it now return minus 2. So you guys get it. All right. Okay. So that is how to make use of your arrow function. So our advice, if possible, all the functions we have written so far in our classes, you can go back and see how you can convert them to an arrow function. It's going to be very, very helpful. So now going back to this one, our iteration method, right? So looking at for each, if you look at for each takes in a what? It takes in an arrow. I say arrow, yes, it takes in an arrow function, isn't it? So here now we'll come here. Where's my code? Good. And it can take in a normal function too. Just that the arrow function is much more better. Okay, let's even try it. For instance, we have an array, let's say const even, right? That's array of even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? And then what we want to do, right, is to multiply each element by 2. So we want to take each of these elements and multiply them by 2, right? So first of all, we need to create a function. We say function add, okay, more 2. So that multiply 2, right? And then the function can say, okay, if you take in a parameter, let's say it's taking an element e, all right, and then what will it now do? It will now return e times 2. So it will multiply the elements by 2 and return it. So if we are using for each now, it means you want to iterate over all the elements that is inside of this array called even. So for each element, you want to now be multiplying them by 2. So here you can now say even dot for each. Remember, now we have to call this function here, isn't it? So we now say mul underscore 2 and then e, right? So let's see. Normal function did not still work. Normal function did not work. I was thinking it's going to work. So let's use our arrow functions and see. So now we have even dot for each, and then just like I said, it will take in an anonymous function. This is for each method itself, but the for each method is taking in a function. This time around, anonymous function. So anonymous function, remember, we say we have this and we have our arrow and this, where this is your parameter and then this will be the body of your function. So here now we can say e. Why I'm using e, although I know e is majorly used for errors in JavaScript, but e now is actually signifying element in my own case. All right, so you can use anything. In fact, let's say lm, and let me use lm so that it will not look like. So this one signifies each of these elements is a placeholder for each of these elements. And then my function body, what do I want to do? I want to return, not even, what I want to do is to multiply each of the elements by 2. So I will now say ln multiply by 2, right? So now, remember, from here, execute the provided function once for every array element. All right. So now, what we'll now do here, let's now console log our array and see what we now have. So console.log even, right? So this serious. So even dot for each lm. What does it return a new array? I'm coming. Let me check. Const. Let me check something. Even two, right? So let me. It does not return a new array. Then what is happening then? For each console.log. Ah, what am you?
Sorry,
Okay, you observe something?
for each it doesn't return anything. It's just for iteration.
Cannot assign to even because it is a constant. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, it does not return anything, right? So, but it's supposed to. I don't know why. Ah,
No, normally for it doesn't return. It doesn't return anything.
anything. Oh,
It's just meant for iteration. Like that.
iteration. Okay, so it means that we just like this, right? Oh no, okay, like this is a lm. Or let me say console.log. Console.log lm. All right, let me remove it here. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's serious. I'm surprised though because okay, let me see something times 2. I'm not supposed to. I'm just surprised that I'm not seeing what I don't think it make changes. Because let me see console.log even. Okay. No, that's the case. So actually it doesn't make changes to the original array. So I was thinking it makes changes to the original array like the others, but it doesn't. You understand? So like here now, what it's going to do, as you all know, for we calling for each on the even, the array even, it means it's going to iterate over all the elements in that array, 2, 4, 6, 10. And then this arrow function is taking in a parameter for lm. Now, this is very important. Once I don't signify this my for each will not work. I need what is here, and you can name it anything. It mustn't be lm, it can be anything. So just like I said, this one will not be the placeholder for each of these elements that is iterating. And then of course my arrow, since an anonymous function, right? And what I want it to do. So here, what I'm doing is to console log each of the elements is iterating now. I'm multiplying it by 2, and then I'm console logging it. That's why here you see, instead of 2, I'm having 4. Instead of 4, I'm having 8. Instead of 6, I'm having 12. Like that, like that. So if I like, I can just console log the element. And just like I said, this one, you can use anything. If I like, I can use P. So coming here, of course, I'll console log P. So it mustn't be E or LM. You can use anything. Just something that you remind you that okay, actually I'm referring to each of the elements inside of my array. So that is for each. Then we have map. So map creates a new array. So that's why I was not thinking for each too. So map creates a new array. You understand? So for this function, this thing we wanted to do, the best thing for it is to use map. All right. And since map create or return a new array, it means we can actually always create a variable for the map function. So now we can come here and say const even more t. So it's more like I'm saying even multiply by 2. All right. Equal to. So for using map now, I'll call my array dot map. So map 2 will take in an anonymous function. So we have our parameter bracket, we have our arrow, and also our function body for the anonymous. So this is the anonymous function, right? Now, what do I want? For each of the elements this map will iterate over, I want a variable call lm for each of them. And then what am I going to do for each of those variables? What I want to do is to now multiply them by 2, each of them by 2. And then here, remember, I'm now storing it inside this even more two element. Why? Because they say the map method returns a new array. So it means this even more 2 should be a new array of all of these elements multiplied by 2. So now let's console.log even more 2. So what do we have? Is it because I did not return? Yeah, beautiful. So actually, it was showing error here. You get. So I now realize that I'm not actually returning it. And so that's why I say I now came and now use the word return. All right. And remember, we talked about, so you can see the new array now is a multiple of this array. 2 times 2, 4. 4 times 2, 8. 6 times 2, 12, and the rest. So if you remember when we were talking about this, right? Sorry. This, we say if we are dealing with just a single line of code, we can actually dispose of this our curly bracket or braces. So coming here, we can just remove this and then remove this, right? And then of course, okay, sorry, that one is for function. This one is for map. We are not removing anything. Sorry, we are not removing anything. Okay, let me see. Let me see if it will work. It's supposed to work though. I don't know. What are they saying? Const, syntax unexpected token. Okay. Okay. Sorry. We don't need this return. So this is it. So if it's just one line of code, you can remove those parentheses around it and also the return word. This arrow itself will now function as the return. So why? Because it's just a single line of code. So that it will make your code more neater. Okay, imagine what we have here, right? And what we had before. Before we had this, isn't it? We have this, and then we have the return. So look at the stress we've saved ourselves. We saved ourselves from stress of this, and also stress of the return itself. So you can see. So take note of that as well. So this map can be used for so many things, right? So many things. So many things. If I like, I can decide to say, okay, for each, let's say, Java, C, Python, and then C++, and C sharp. I can decide to say, okay, for each of these ones, I want to add, or I want to concatenate dash. I want to concatenate dash lang to them. So for all of them to be adding dash lang. So we have Java lang, C lang, Python lang, C++ lang, C sharp lang. So in this case, of course, I'm still using map. Here, I'll change it to concat lang. All right. So now I'm having, okay, let me use langs here. Let it be descriptive, right? So langs, yes. So here, of course, the element. Then here, what I will now do is, of course, I can use normal concatenation. You remember our normal concatenation plus, then I'll put the dash lang. All right. Where is it? Okay. Here. So let's print it and see. Dash lang to each and every one of them. So you can use this one if you want, this kind of concatenation, or you use your concat method. You remember the concat method now? You used. Who remember it? So I can come here and just say lm dot concat what dash lang. So it's still going to do the same thing. So that's your map method for you. It works on your original array, but returns an entirely new array based on what you want it to do. So any questions? All right. So the next one we have here is the filter. So it says create a new array with all elements that pass the test implemented by the provided function. So this filter is more like, I know some of us here are from the north, that is not all, right? And of course, everybody's familiar with filter. Let's say now you want to do two, that's two masara, that's swallow. You find out that sometimes you have to filter it out and all of that. So that's what filter does too in programming. So now I can decide to say, I just want all the you can really have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 languages. Now let's say I want just languages that start from C. Those languages that just have C in them. I don't only want, I just need languages that like have C in them. You understand? So I can use filter. Now I can come here and just change this one to C lang. And then here I'll now say langs dot filter. What am I filtering? The filter turns in an anonymous function. So I'm going to bring in my anonymous function inside here. Right? So what do I want to do? From here, you can see the use case. All right. So I say, oh, as it is, I want to take all elements individually. And as I take them, I want to now check that those elements contain C in them. So I'll say, remember the word contain for string under our string method. So I'll now say ln. So this one now is a representation of each of these elements inside of this array. So by saying ln dot contains, is it contains?
So you are not writing Ross to is includes.
Sorry.
Is includes.
Includes, thank you. God bless me. So includes. Now, include what? Of course, if you look at all of them that start with C, they start with capital letter C. So here too, I'll use my capital letter C. All right. Now, according to what they say, it will return a new array with just what I want. So what do I want? I want just those elements that have C inside of them. So we should be expecting C, we should be expecting C++, and we should be expecting C sharp. So here now, it means what I'm going to console log will be this one here. So I'll come here, let me even copy it, and then I'll just contact it. I'll just remove this up. C line. You're having empty. Why are we having empty? No. Okay. So who can tell me why we are having empty array here? What are we not doing correctly here? So remember, we have not actually returned. So if you are using this two curly brackets, you must always use your return keyword. But and here we are just having one single line of code. So it means in this case, we can even do away with the return and the curly bracket entirely. So this arrow will now do the work of the return for us. So you guys understand? Don't worry. I don't know. I'm just praying we have time. My problem is time. We would have gone back to the project we dealt previously, right? And then we'll come and implement some of these things we are doing now. So that way you'll be able to understand much more of it. You understand? But I'll work towards it. I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do. All right. I'll see what I can do. So now we have done filter. Now we have reduce. Okay, say reduce executes a reducer function on each element of the array. resulting in a single output value. So what this one actually does, right, is that it takes like all the elements in an array, process them in a way, and then returns a particular value. So you can see the syntax here, dot reduce. You can see ACC and fruit. So you can see here is adding ACC plus fruit length and then 0. So let me explain what this one. Let me make it big, all right, so that we explain what is going on here. So I just hope you are seeing it properly.
Very tough.
Okay. So, are you saying something? Sorry. So now, if you look at it, this first one, ACC, I know it will be sounding like account. Hey, well, it's not account though. Fruit, right? And then it's now taking ACC, is now adding it to fruit.length. Then we are now having comma 0. Fruit.length, of course, it will depend on the number of elements inside of the fruit array. You understand? So this ACC is known as accumulator. You understand? So this accumulator now, what it's going to do is that it's going to preserve the count. It's more like a count, an account. You understand? What they call it accumulator in this case. So this 0 now is like I saying it should start the counting from 0. If you put 5 here, your initial value is going to be 5. Then from there, you see this accumulator will now be 5 plus 2.9. Let's say the first fruit is, let's say, orange. Orange is how many characters? ORANGE. That's 6 characters. It's going to now be 5 plus 6 for orange. Then that's why it will keep on adding it until it gets to the last element. Once it gets to the last element, it will now return the count for you. So always take note of the reduce. The reduce method takes in an accumulator, and then whatever thing you want to work with, that's each of the individual elements you are array. All right. So take note of this reduce method. So let's leave this reduce method for this thing and see. Sorry, for this one, let's use it and see what we can actually do. So we can say, okay, total length, right? So more like total length of all the characters of the element. All right. So now we can now say the name of our array dot reduce, our reduce method. Now the reduce takes in an anonymous function, an arrow function. So this is the parameter of our arrow function. This is it. So these are arrow function now, right? Now what do we say? You say it takes in an accumulator. Now this accumulator, you must not put ACC. You can put any other thing. Just know that it takes in accumulator and then your element. So you can use anything. Why they use ACC is so that you will not forget. And anybody coming to look at what your code is, you will remember that, okay, this is actually an accumulator, right? So the next one is your element. Of course, I'll use ln to specify my element. Or if I like, I'll use lang. That's the singular of langs. No langs, that's there are plenty. Lang, that's a single one. Anyone you can use. So what am I doing? What I want to do is to take my accumulator and then add it to the length. Remember, each of these are string, and we did the method, length method of string. So by saying lang.length, if you come to Java, it will count how many characters in Java, which will be 4. If you come to C, it will count how many characters is in C, which is 1. If you come to Python, it will count how many characters in Python, which is 6. If you come to C++, of course, it will be 3, and then C# will be 2. All right? And then if you look at something here, just like I said, they specified 0. So this one is like the stats. So I want you to start counting from 0. So I'm going to now give this one a count. That's after your anonymous function, not inside here, because you now go and put comma. And remember, since we are inside these our parentheses, we have to make use of our return. Okay, no, we don't need return. Sorry. Yeah. So here now we have 0, right? So what we now do, let's now console log this total length and see what we have. So console.log total length. So what do we have? Undefined, undefined, undefined. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so it means we have to use our return. So now you can see what do we have? 16. So let's check, is this actually right? What is our function doing? Method reduce. Anything you are doing, store it inside our variable this. Taking the accumulator, taking each element of our array. Return for every element, return our accumulator for us, adding the length of each of our elements to the accumulator. And Oga, I want you to start counting from 0. So now Java is 4, C is 1, we have 5. Python is 6, 5 plus 6, we have 11. C++ is 3, 3 plus 11, we have 14. C# is 2, 14 plus 2, we have 16. That's why you see we're having 16 here. Now, if peradventure will come, we say, no, we don't want you to start counting from 0, start counting from 10. What do you see? 26. Of course, 10 have been here already. So by that we add 10 plus 4, 14. 14 plus 1, 15. 15 plus 6, we have 21. 21 plus 3, we have 24. 24 plus 2, we have 26. So take note of this, take note of this. I'm not sure if we omit the whole thing, I'm not sure what is going to happen. So you can see. So you have to put in this. You just have to. So that it will know where it should start counting from. So, and you can use it for numbers as well. Okay, let's say you have numbers, const, nums, right? And then you have an array of, let's say, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 11, 12. You can use this reduce method to sum everything up together. Now, Oga, accumulate. Now, we call it on our nums array, our accumulator. Each element, I want it to be num. Let it be descriptive. That's for each number inside of my numbers. Return the accumulator plus my number. Of course, that's num. That's the individual element. All right. And I want you to start from 0. So what's going to happen? It will do 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 9 plus 11 plus 12. That's why you see what we are having here is 52. So any question? Any question? No. If you don't to ask your question now, by the time you start asking my question. Yeah. So that's your reduce. All right. So put that at the back of your mind. Now let's look at okay, we have done reduce. Now find, of course, from the word find, you should even know what it entails. Right? From the word find. So find, return the first element in the array that satisfy the provided test function. So this find now, it does not matter whether all the elements meet the requirement. It only look for the very first one that meets the requirement. Once it gets that first one, that's all. That's what it's going to pick. You understand? So if we are using something like that, right? So let's check. Okay, let's use it for something like this. Something like this. All right. Let's check. Let's say let's check for. I'm looking at which element can we say? This one is one only having A. This one is the only one having. I want something that all of them actually have. So even if I bring in Rust, it will not make any changes. Okay, let me bring in JavaScript. Beautiful. JavaScript. So let's say you want to find, in this our array, you want to just find any element that contains A. Of course, we have 2 elements containing A here, right? Java and JavaScript, right? So, okay, please go on. Okay, so now we can now say, okay, what is our array? Name of our array is langs dot find. Now find, we take in an anonymous function, right? And then from the syntax here, right, it will take in. Now what are we finding, right? We are finding, let's say, since it's langs, let's call this one lang. So and what are we doing? Okay, we want you to return any language that contains what? A. So remember, it will not be lang dot includes, thank God I will not miss it this time around. That includes A. So what am I doing here? Right? I'm calling the find method. Of course, the find method takes in an arrow function. And then I'm telling you to return whichsoever element of the array langs. Just like I said, this one you can name it anything. This is the most important one. This one must be the name of the array you are working with. So this one will be the individual element, right? So I want you to check for individual element that includes A. And that's what I want you to give me. So here now, right? Of course, what do you see here? It's returning Java, because just like what they said here, they say it returns the first element, and of course the first element having A here is definitely Java. So what if we now change it to not A, but we change it to P, right? Now, of course, the first element, because it is case sensitive, the first element here with P is actually Python. But because it is case sensitive, the first one with small letter P is not actually Python, it is JavaScript. That's why here the function is actually returning JavaScript for us. So, any questions? These are that somebody is laughing. Say, oh, more, this JavaScript, then I die. Nothing is difficult there. You just need to try your best. All right. No, just like I said, work on project. And all these methods, you don't need all the methods. You only need what you need at the moment. So if what you need is a find, and let's say for instance, you even forgot to use how to find, you forget to use how to find. There's nothing, no issue there. What is there? It's just for you to go, and then after you go on the internet, how to use find method, then you reverse, and then you come and use what you want to use. You understand? And I know some of you, what you are thinking, like, ha, go to car, no, all these things. Even me, I don't know all of them in my head. And if eventually I want to use anyone, I shall know that, okay, that's why I'll be making mistake of includes, between include and contains. I shall know that, okay, there's something contained, there's something that we check for something inside of a string, contain. By that I use contain did not work, I can just go to Google and put JavaScript contain. It will show me that it's include. So the most important thing is know how to use them. Know what and what you need in order for you to be able to use them. All right. So what do we have? God have mercy. Okay, find index. So if you remember for string, we have index of, right? So this one, what it does is it does the same thing with find though, this find index. It's just that in this case, what it returns for you is the index of the element, not the element itself. So if you come here, now of course, this one will return JavaScript to us. But if instead of find, if we are using find index, what it's going to do is that it will return the index of what we are looking for. Of course, let's check index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4, index 5. So that's why it's here is returning 5. So that is just the difference between find and find index. Find, return your element for you. Find index, return the index of your element for you. So do you guys understand? Aha! So you see includes. We still have includes in string. So we also have in array also. You understand? So just like in string too, in array, once you use include, what it does is that it looks at all the elements that contains that particular thing. So for instance, let's say for A, right? Here, when we say includes, what it's going to do is that why is it I'm showing port? It may work out. Let's see. So where is it include? Has mango. Fruits don't include. Okay, this one does not take in a function. So Nasiba, Nasiba don't go for cup now like this. So for this one now, it's just for us to put lands dot includes. So let's see, includes Java. All right. Of course, it's true. It's like if you look at all the elements now, in fact, we have two occurrences of Java. So what of includes A? Hmm? Returning false. Why is it returning false? Let me even see. Ava is returning false. Okay. J A B A. All right, all right, all right. I see what's happening. So this is what is happening. It actually needs the full name of the element, unlike that of string. You know that of string, it just look at the individual characters. But this one looks at the whole element. So if you look at, does my array have Java? Yes, it has Java. Does my array have J? No, my array does not have J. If you look at all the elements in my array, there's none that is actually element J. So this contains the array includes, this includes for array, looks for the full element. So what of C? Of course, it contains C. Look at it here. So that's every returning true. So put that at the back of your mind. All right. Includes every. So returns true if every element in the array satisfies the provided testing function. So this one too actually takes in an anonymous function. So take note of that. So this every now is when it, okay. So let's go back to our code. Let's use the every and see. So here I'm going to use length.every. So every takes in an anonymous function. So this is my anonymous function here, isn't it? And then, of course, each of the elements is here. And then what I want to check is that God returns when it meets the condition for all of them, returns true. So I just want to, what I'm going to do here is to give each of them dash land, dash land, dash land. I just needed something that all of them are going to have, so that we are going to check it, dash land, and then finally dash land. So now what I want to check is that, does each of the elements, does it include dash land? Okay, so false. So why are we having false? Hmm? We are having false. You're gonna have land, land, land. So why are we having false? Can somebody help us? Oh, good. I did not use the return keyword. Sorry for that. I don't know. I always omit that part. So of course, why I was surprised is because if you look at all of them, they're actually having lang, 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 lang. So it should return true. All right. So let's say, for instance, I just exclude the lang just from one of the elements. Of course, what we have is false because this every checks for all the elements and make sure they have that particular thing. All right. So that's for every for you. And then some. So sum, not that sum is opposite of every, but sum is that it will check. Even if it's just one that is having it, it will return true. All right. So if you come here now, of course, every for every to return false because Java itself does not have lang. But by the time we change this every now to sum, it will return true. Why? Despite the fact Java does not have, the other ones to have. And you can even decide to say, let's remove all the lang. So now it's only C that is having lang, but still returning true. Why? Because at least one of the elements have lang. It's only when we remove all of them that it will not return false for us. So that is sum for you. So so far, are there any questions? Before we move to practice sessions. JavaScript is sweet. Well, Rust is sweet, Asha. Well, JavaScript is sweet. So any question? You know that kind of thing that you went to a friend's house, all right, and then they serve you pepper soup. I don't mean a female friend though, I mean a male friend, because somebody will now say, God forbid, a male friend, and they give you pepper soup. And the pepper is hot, but guy, the meat is too sweet. It be like, the time you catch up this thing, drink water. I know they need this meat. So that's how Rust. You understand? So that's how Rust too is. So Rust is sweet. The pepper is there, but you just be looking at it and say, anything too sweet, I don't believe it. So any question before we move to practice session? Okay, seems no question. All right, so let's look at now this practice one. What does it say? Write a JavaScript function using ES6 arrow syntax to calculate the square of a number. All right, so let's come to our code. This is the question, right? Write a JavaScript function using ES6 arrow syntax to calculate the square of a number. So, number one, let's give it a name. Square, num, right? That's square of a number. And then arrow function, remember what we say? We have these are our normal brackets for parameters. We have our arrow, and then we have these are curly brackets. Now, what are we doing? Calculate the square of a number, isn't it? So it means you take in a number because they were not specific. If not, would have just come inside this our function and did what we want, right? And then to get the square of the number, remember we say number, right? Remember to find square of any number. Square, if it's cube, it will be raised power of 3. You know, this is your power, and square is power of 2. So what we are doing here, we are raising this number to the power of 2 by this double star. I think that's one of the things we did in our first class. So this star set that simply means power of. So we're having number raised to the power of 2. Or you can decide to just use number times number. It's still the same thing. All right. So here, of course, I'm going to return this. And then next, I'll call my function because we need to be sure that our function is working. Square number. So let's call it with 6 and see. At least 6, the square of 6 is 36. So it means this our function is correct. Now looking at this function, can we still improve on it? Like, can we still improve on it? Look at it. Can we still improve on this function? Now, looking at it, we just have one line of code inside our function. It means since we just have one single line of code, it means number one, we don't need this curly bracket. Number two, we don't need this our return statement. This one in particular, since it's just a single line of code, this arrow will do the job of the return. So you can see we are still having the same thing. Now let's check for 5. You can see. Let's check for 4. 16. Of course, 4 times 4, 16. So any question pertaining this practice? All right. So let's look at the next one. So the next one, right? Let me copy it inside. Sorry. So of course, let me just comment out all of them. So the first, it says create an array with values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the first thing we do. Const array, right? They say, oh, can just name a numbers. They say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. Now, write code to double each element using map. Are you seeing it? So the next step is for us to double each element using map. And then look at the next one. Filter out elements greater than 4 using filter. See wahala. After we double our hustle, we come filter the hustle again. The one wey no too plenty, we drop am. So now we can okay. So if people say we should double, no wahala. So of course, the name of our array and then the map method, right? Remember, the map method do what? It takes an anonymous function. All right. And then of course, we have to refer to each of the elements inside of our array. So here I'm going to give it num. And then what did they say we should do? Double each element. So I'm returning, what am I returning? I'm returning each of, because this one represents each of the elements, this one here. And just like I say, you can use anything. You can use n, you can use u, anything. If this one that you, it has to be what the name of your array. This one is very strict, but this one is flexible. So now I want to double it. What does double means? I want to multiply it by 2. All right. So remember what they said about map. They say map, right? It returns new element. So that's why here you are seeing new element of this. So here I'm going to store it inside the variable. Then I'll just put nums double. So I'm storing it inside this variable. So we have successfully executed this. We're able to double each element. How do we know that it was successful? Now we can console.log the nums double. And then you can see it. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now, what is the next one says? It says filter out element greater than 4 using filter. So now it means the one we are filtering is not our original array. The array we are filtering is the array that our map method have doubled. You understand? So here now, I will now come here and create another variable for the filter. I will say nums filter, right? I'm just trying to make it as descriptive as I can. So this filter will now work on our array that is doubled already. So now I will now call on the array that is doubled, nums double dot filter. Remember, filter also takes in what? A callback function. An anonymous function is also called a callback function, actually. That's so anywhere you see they say callback function in JavaScript, it actually means an arrow function. So take note of it. Although in this case, a callback function is a function that is called inside of another function. So when you call a function inside another function, it's called a callback function. But anyways, see, don't bother yourself about those plenty English. The most important thing is that you know what you are doing. All right. So now, of course, our filter takes in our arrow function, and then we have to refer to each of the elements there. All right. So since this one is nums double, of course I can still use num if I want to. And then here, what did I want it to do? What did they say we should do? Filter out elements greater than 4. Are you seeing it? So what am I filtering? Return. Now I'm filtering the elements inside of my double. This is my array that have been doubled that is greater than 4. So what is going to happen here is that it will only return elements for me that are actually greater than 4. So let's confirm if our code is working. So I'm going to console.log nums filter. Now, are we correct? Of course, this is the elements that have been doubled 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. But now using our filter, we just want to get the ones that are greater than 4. Of course, the only one greater than 4 is 6, 8, and 10. And this is what we have here. So, any question? I must say any question now. If you are just smiling, no problem. Look at those, there are plenty. Voila. So, any question? All right. So, nobody's saying anything. Now, practice 3. I will not do it for you people. You people will be the one to do it. Look at it. Define a string const sentence equal to hello JavaScript. So, this is what you are defining. Use string methods to trim white spaces. Now, if you look at it, there's a space here at the beginning, and also there's a space at the end. That is your first work. Next, convert it to uppercase. Then last, check if it includes the word JavaScript. We have done all of this. So should I leave it to you guys to go and attempt, or should we do it together?
Sir, there is this concept we learned in the morning. It is called chaining, right? So if you can actually just use this thought practice to chain these tasks that we were given for the benefit of people who were not in the morning section.
Okay. Yes, you are right, actually. We can actually chain these two together. Where is it? So I think that's what you're trying to say, right? That's chaining the filter and the map.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you're actually right. We can do that. It's just that, so, I'm teaching in such a way, at least somebody that does not really understand much will be able to understand what we are doing. If I change this thing now, some people here will think it's magical. And Jethro, I'm telling you, some people think it's magic we are doing here. So that's why I just did it.
Okay, it's cool. Let's just leave it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I get what you are saying, and we'll still come back to that. We'll come back to that. Remember what I say, we are coming back to form. That other one, try and catch. We'll still come back to it. I said we use it for a project. So all those ones I still remember. I've not forgotten. All right. So any other question? All right. But I believe you guys should be able to attempt 3. Am I right?
Yeah, we can attempt, sir. We can attempt.
Beautiful. So practice 4. Write a function that takes an array of numbers and return the sum of all numbers using the reduce method. In fact, we have done this. We did it here. So if you go and try it yourself. 5. Write a function using default parameter that return a greeting message. If no name is provided, it should default to guest. Of course, you people should be able to do this. Write a JavaScript function that accepts 2 parameters, an array of strings, and a search term. Using the filter method to return a new array containing only the strings that include the search term. Are you seeing it? Write a JavaScript function that accepts 2 parameters, an array of strings, and a search term. Use the filter method to return a new array containing only the strings that include the search term. All right. So please give me some minutes. I'm coming.
All right. Welcome back, sir.
Okay, sorry, my mic is muted. So I don't know. You guys should try it now, Abby. Or what do you think? Nobody is saying anything. No, it is well. Oh. All right. So I think um okay. So
Yeah,
I think you people can try it now, Abby.
Hello, guys. What's up?